Hi, I'm Jillian Rafferty for Rafferty Subaru, and I am here with Dr. Heather DiGiacomo of the Malvern Veterinary Hospital, and we're joined by our dogs, Maeby and Sugar. Thanks, Heather, for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Now, a lot of us love to take our dogs in the car. Our customers especially love their dogs. So we want to know, what are some considerations to take kind of before you decide to take your dog with you?
Always good to think about. We definitely see a lot of car sickness, particularly in young puppies. Even some adult dogs will have car sickness too, but more typical in puppies, and a lot of them do outgrow it, which is good, but you have to kind of ride through that period when they're younger to address it. The best thing sometimes you can do is just have them drive on an empty stomach. If there's no food in there to come up, then a lot of times that'll prevent the car sickness from being an issue. And also I recommend to clients that they try and desensitize their dog to being in the car. So just short drives around the neighborhood, gradually increasing the amount of time spent in the car, that can sometimes help. And there are some over-the-counter and some prescription medications that can address car sickness if it's really an issue. It's definitely something to talk with your veterinarian about, but there's definitely solutions to that problem for sure.
The key is kind of getting them used to it and comfortable.
In most cases, that's exactly right.
Right. So speaking of getting comfortable, are there some things that we need to have in our car when we're taking our pets with us?
Yes, always good to think about. Depending on the length of the trip and the nature of the trip, you'll have to bring supplies for your dog, just like you would for yourself. There's some portable and collapsible water bowls that you can purchase, and I actually have one that I just keep in the back of my car at all times so I can fill it up when we go away. You'll obviously want to bring your dog's leash and collar and harness, and make sure that they have tags with your address and your phone number just in case they get lost. Food, if you're going to need that when you get to your destination. And some dogs, particularly if they're anxious in the car, they do better if they have something to do. So give them a rawhide, or get one of those rubber toys that you can stuff with some treats, and that can occupy them during the course of the drive.
Oh, and that's helpful. Definitely. Sugar actually, she loves rawhide, so we think
Keeps
it's a good thing to do.
Yep.
Now, in terms of restraining dogs, again, it's easier just to kind of throw them in the car and go, but how important is it to restrain them?
It's incredibly important, and I think we're becoming more and more aware of how important it really is. We would never get in the car and not restrain ourselves, and we wouldn't get in the car and not restrain our children. So we want to provide appropriate restraint for our pets as well. In an accident, pets can actually act as a projectile, and they can hurl through the car. They could hurt you. They could certainly hurt themselves. So we want to keep them safe and keep ourselves safe as well. There's a variety of things that can be used to restrain pets. There's harnesses available. There's little baskets like what Sugar has for smaller dogs. For cats, usually they're in a cat carrier, so we want to have that buckled in with a seat belt. Some people have dog crates in their cars, and those should be secured as well. Definitely something to consider. We don't want free-range pets in the car. They can be dangerous to everybody.
Now, Subaru has actually teamed up with the Center for Pet Safety, and they did some crash tests where they've actually developed some crash test dogs, and they've determined that the Sleepy Pod Click-It harness is the ultimate in pet safety and really keeping your dog secure. So we are very excited about that, and Rafferty will soon be carrying that. Now, some other considerations, I think, as winter comes along and there are things that pets can get into, what are things to really make sure that your dog's not getting into at all?
Definitely good to think about. I think around this time of the year, one thing we worry about is exposure to antifreeze. Antifreeze is highly toxic to people and to pets, and it has a sweet taste to it, so our pets are often drawn to the flavor. Even if you have a little bit of a leak coming from your car, you notice that green spot in your garage or in your driveway, that's antifreeze, and you want to make sure that you get that addressed, because that's extremely dangerous to your pet if they come in contact with it.
Right.
We also think too about dogs going outside and there's salt on the roadways.
And that can hurt their paws.
Absolutely. It can really burn the skin and can cause some irritation. So some people will elect to use booties for their dogs. If the dogs will tolerate it, not all of them will. And if not, it's easy enough just to keep some water and a towel by the door and just wipe those paws really thoroughly when you get in the door after a walk.
So just making sure that they're not keeping that salt on them and hurting themselves. Well, thank you so much, Heather, for all your tips. We're so glad Heather could join us today. And if you want to find out more info, check out Heather's blog, drdvmd.com.